Hey everyone, Tony D here, and little Joan is under the blanket. This is your Hollywood hot take, and today I'd like to do my tribute to Sean Connery. Why he was so awesome. Sean Connery was awesome because he was a man's man, and he always played a man's man. I mean, even if you just look at this headshot here, I mean, there's a manly cut of a guy, right? And he was in so many things. This is his IMDb page. We, of course, all know him from James Bond. Um, his first movie was a film in 1954. Was called Let's Make Up. It was only an hour and 12 minutes. And, this is an old time movie. I think it was in black and white. Errol Flynn was the star, and he was just some nobody at that time. He went on to star in various things. He was on the Jack Benny program. That shows you how old he was. That's a long time. IT television Playhouse. I mean, that's ancient history, ancient television history. But I think one of his bigger roles was he was on The Magical World of Disney as Michael McBride, and he also did, I believe this was a movie, Darby O'Gill and the Little People, where he reprised his role of Michael McBride because he was just, charismatic enough. They said, "Oh yeah, let's bring back Connery there." But he was in tons of stuff over the years, and then in '62 he plays James Bond in Doctor No, and it's a huge hit, and it spawned many, many Bond movies after that. 7 other Bond movies, from Russia with Love, Goldfinger, The Best, Thunderball, and on and on. He was also in Marnie, an Alfred Hitchcock movie, which if you haven't seen Marnie, you should, because everything Alfred Hitchcock must be viewed. You Only Live Twice. I mean, just classic movies. I mean, Bond, Diamonds Are Forever. Bond is forever. And he always played Bond as, the guy smoking, drinking, banging chicks, saving the world. I mean, really, it doesn't get any better than that. And every Bond that's come after, they've been okay. Some of them actually been pretty good, but you can't compare them to Connery. You just can't. They're softer. They're always softer. Daniel Craig could have been the one guy to maybe challenge Sean Connery because he was like cut like out of granite, super muscular, and that first Casino Royale movie really gave us hope that Bond was back in a big way. Unfortunately, the woke brigade got a hold of Bond, and now they're just driving it into the ditch. And this was even before, And I've done my rants on Quantum of Solace, the worst Bond movie ever made. Oh yes, just god awful. And it's a shame because Daniel Craig is a good Bond, but he was really a vessel for these woke idiots. By that time, he became the actor who plays Bond becomes an employee. Everybody after Connery, they're just punching a clock at this point because Bond was really, he was created by Ian Fleming, but the movie role was really fleshed out by Connery. That's what an actor does. He embodied Bond, and everybody who comes after him, you just can't live up to him. You just can't. It's impossible. What we may see in the future with Bond, I think, is I still say a return to the Cold War is the only way to save Bond. That's where he belongs. That gives him a rival, a real rival to fight in a time period when, the United States and the West fought the Soviets. And that's where Bond works best, in my view. You need a Cold War for spies to really work. And I think what you're going to see, and I just, a friend of mine sent me this clip of, they took William Shatner and they put his face on Christopher Pike in the new Star Trek movie, and they put DeForest Kelley over Carl Urban. Is it Carl Urban? Yeah, Carl. And it looks pretty good. So it's like, it's that scene from the Shatner Star Trek movie with Kirstie Alley as the Vulcan, and she's asking him how he beat the Kobayashi Maru, and it cuts back to the newer Star Trek with Christopher Pike, where they reenact Kirk, gaming the Kobayashi Maru scenario, and they put Shatner's face over Pike, and it looks pretty good. Now, it doesn't look amazing. You can kind of see, and the voice isn't quite there yet. But, for a YouTube video, it was amazing. And, that was just a YouTube video. You put some real money behind that, you could have young Shatner back in the Star Trek role. Same thing for James Bond. You could have Connery back in the role, doing what he does best. Which would be pretty amazing. It would be. Then he was in Zardoz, which a friend of mine, it's like his favorite movie of all time. But it is a cult classic if you've never seen Zardoz. And he's great in it. He sort of really carries the whole movie, in my view. And he was in a bunch of other movies. He did a cameo in Time Bandits. A little more than a cameo, but that was it. He came back as James Bond in '83, Never Say Never Again. Of course, his role in Highlander was a big deal. The first movie's really good. The sequel's not so much. The Presidio, I remember that. And of course, The Untouchables. He has an amazing role in The Untouchables. And by this time in the '80s, he's getting kind of long in the tooth. He's older, but he was really still good. I mean, Jim Balone in The Untouchables is a tough guy. I mean, he has such a great scene. You bring a knife to a gunfight. That scene. I mean, it's great. He was Indiana Jones's dad. Remember that? And he's great in that. He's not a tough guy in that. It's more of a fun role for him, but it works for him. That was probably one of the lightest roles for Connery, right? It wasn't. He was still kind of manly, but it was more of a lighter role for him, because it was like manly in the sense that Indiana Jones's dad was so wrapped up in his work, he didn't really have much time for his son. And and The Hunt for Red October as the sub-captain, I mean, that was a manly role as well. And he did King Richard, The Green Knight, and all kinds of stuff. Here he is as King Arthur. He was in the Avengers, not the superhero movie, but the remake of the 60s TV show, which didn't do well. And unfortunately, a lot of his last movies didn't do so well. He was in The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen as Alan Quatermain, which is a great, perfect role for him. But unfortunately, they kind of screwed the pooch on the whole movie, so didn't really work. I didn't know this, looking over this. He did Bond one last time in 2005 when they did From Russia with Love video game, which makes me want to run out and find this, because that sounds cool as hell. You get to play the whole movie, and they added some action scenes, and he gets to voice Bond one last time. That's awesome. I wish they had done more James Bond video games. I mean, why not do every single one of them that he was in? That would have been amazing. But I guess, by that time, I mean, this is 2005, so what is he? He's about 75 then, so he had it rough towards the end. His last acting gig, according to this, is Sir Billy, a cartoon he did for kids, and he was the main guy, and he also was the executive producer, so I guess he helped push it through, and that was in 2012. So by that time, he's 82, and unfortunately, He was kind of in rough shape towards the end, but he had a nice, comfortable life, lots of money, fame, fortune, glory. I mean, what a great run. Oh yeah, Robin Hood and Marion. That was a good one too. Um, he had a great run of movies. Always was the man in these movies, and a great actor. You know, he didn't go out of his lane. I think he stayed mostly within roles that really fit him well. I think he didn't try to do something where he's I don't know, when these guys do the Oscar roles, or like when they talk about in Tropic Thunder, you know what I'm talking about. Um, he didn't try to do those big Oscar roles kind of thing. Oh, and speaking of the Oscars, if they don't, oh, and The Rock, I forgot The Rock. He was great in that. Another manly role, also kind of a James Bond role, if you've seen the movie. But yeah, like when the Oscars come around in a few months, they absolutely need to do a tribute to him. Absolutely. If they don't, well, that'll just show you how woke and stupid the effing Oscars are. I effing hate the Oscars now. I just hate it. It's become whatever it was before. I guess it was kind of fun before, but now I just look at it and go, ugh, it's just awful. Just awful. But hey, he had a great run. I'm sorry to see him go. Bond was really shaped my worldview a lot, mainly because Bond to me, as a movie, as a screenwriter, is really kind of the perfect kind of movie because it's so formatted. You may call it formulaic, but I don't see it that way because even in that formula, there's a lot of dynamic to it. It makes it exciting. It's fun. It gives the audience what they want. At the same time, there's lots of surprise and there's action. There's romance. There are things at stake. There's also comedy in it, and that was Connery's gift. When we got into later Bonds, the balance was out of whack. Some Bonds like Roger Moore got too campy, and then other James Bonds got too serious. They were too seriously trying to save the world. Connery had that great balance. He was just a little dangerous, and he brought that to the role. He himself was a little bit dangerous, a little bit nutty. You've seen the interview when he talks about backhanded people. It made him just a little bit dangerous, and that was a good element to have for Bond because you had to get the sense that Connery would kill you. He'd kill you. Push him too far, he'll effing kill you. And that's what made him great in the role. A lot of the other Bonds, they were good, but I never got the sense, that any of these actors really would go, I'll effing kill you. Like Connery, I wouldn't mess with Connery. Back in the day, I think Connery would be like, get the hell out of my way. If you pissed him off, like he'd punch you. The other ones, they'd kind of talk to you about it. And maybe Daniel Craig, maybe. But again, he feels like more of a vessel, more of a guy who's punching a clock. Connery really made the role of James Bond, and yeah, I'm gonna miss him. But if you haven't seen the James Bond movies, if you haven't seen them, what are you waiting for? See them, and then live and let die, and then you could pretty much be done.